pop-up medical clinic in Santa Ana to serve the 450 individuals housed there. Dr. Lay likes to say, optimism is his superpower and gratitude is his fuel. You are about to hear a powerful story of resilience, survival, hope, and freedom. Please give a hand to Dr. Lay.
Thank you, Charlie, for such a warm introduction. Good afternoon. It is truly an honor for me to be here today. Thank you to the Miramar National Cemetery Support Foundation for this invitation, especially Charlie Einat. I really appreciate it. I was asked to come to you this afternoon to share the story of my family. I've been to Miramar several times before, but never in this capacity. Standing here, looking over your faces, as well as the thousands of headstones, I am truly humbled. I can only hope, as the leaders of the foundation hope, that my story can help some of you in the audience heal just a little bit from the trauma that you endured in Vietnam in the service of our country. Please allow me to take you back to Vietnam, to the year 1973. In June of that year, shortly after the beginning of withdrawal of American combat forces in Vietnam, I was born. My father was a lieutenant commander in the South Vietnamese Navy. He graduated from the Naval Academy of the former Republic of South Vietnam in 1966. And in the early part of his career, he had many American advisors from the Navy as he learned to be proficient in the strategies of modern river naval warfare. In the early part of 1970, he became the commanding officer of a group of about 16 boats. This assignment moved our family to Vinh Long, where I was born. At the end of '73, when I was just 6 months old, and only 1 month after my grandfather passed away, my father was involved in a vicious firefight with the Viet Cong in the Mekong Delta. He was severely injured, and many of his officers actually were killed. After he healed from his injuries, we moved to Vũng Tàu, where he served out the remainder of the war. During the last week of April of 1975, my father went to work as he always did. When the war reached our town in Vũng Tàu, he was forced to evacuate with his men out to the open ocean. My mom at the time was 8 months pregnant with my middle brother, and I was only 22 months old. So unfortunately, we were left behind. Miraculously, somehow my mother found her way back to her mother about 100 miles away. About a month after she arrived there, she gave birth to my middle brother. But it was so chaotic during that time that we still don't know the exact date of his birth, so we just made it up. June 15th. My father found his way into international waters and was rescued by American ships. As soon as he got on board the American warship, he was instructed to strip off all the insignias on his uniform because the country that he represented no longer existed. The flag that he was fighting for and ready to die for was lowered off the ship. He was officially a refugee. He was brought to Subic Bay and joined 43,000 other Vietnamese refugees already there. Then they moved him on to Guam. The plan was for him to be sent to America. However, he and 1,000 other people did not want to go to America. They wanted to go back to Vietnam and rejoin their family. So the American government relented and supplied them with a ship, and 1,000 people went back to Vietnam. This is a story you will not hear anywhere else in the history books. My father was only hoping to reunite with my mother and I. Little did he know that as soon as he arrived, they put him into a truck and shipped him straight to North Vietnam. They incarcerated him in a labor camp and fed him very little for the next 5 years until his release. And I don't remember much about growing up without a father, except for a few pivotal moments. I remembered that I was the only child in my kindergarten class that did not have a father. I also felt his presence when I was bullied in the 2nd grade. All I was told was that he was likely to die in the prison. Then, in 1980, miraculously, he literally walked back into my life. This moment was so pivotal because from that moment on, my life's trajectory has been upward. 2 years after meeting my father, he told me that we would attempt an escape from Vietnam. He would be the captain of the escape vessel. However, he was only allowed to take 2 people with him. So my parents had to make the agonizing decision of leaving my 2 younger brothers behind, a 1-year-old and a 7-year-old boy. We left Saigon early one morning. We took a bus to the Mekong Delta. We then snuck around the Delta, transferring among several small boats. Finally, in the middle of the night, we boarded our escape vessel. It was a 16-meter fishing boat. Once we were all aboard, we ran for our lives. When I woke up the next morning, I saw waves that were twice as tall as the ship. And I thought we were all going to die. But thankfully we did not. Thank you to my father's masterful handling of the boat with the assistance of his co-captain, who also happened to be a Naval Academy classmate. The weather calmed, and on the 3rd day, we arrived in Indonesia at a small island called Kuku. We later got transferred to a larger island called Galang, where we would remain for the next year. We stayed there for a year preparing to settle in a first world country, and my father chose to go to America. We arrived here November of 1983, so this November will be my 40th anniversary of coming to America. I spent the next 4 years with my parents in poverty. What I mean by poverty is welfare, food stamps, lots of goodwill trips, Medi-Cal, scrubbing toilets for cash, picking berries for pennies. At one point, we couldn't even afford to share a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment with 3 men. So we had to move out to a fixed-up garage to stop us from being homeless. We cooked under the tree between the garage and the main house for over 2 years. I did my algebra homework under 2 halogen lamps that they hung from the ceiling of the garage. All that kept us from the howling winds, Santa Ana winds of Pasadena that winter was a single thin layer of plywood. But my parents scrapped and they pinched every penny and they made it work, and we survived. I just put my head down and studied and got good grades. In March of 1987, my father received his associate's degree as an electronic technician from Pasadena City College. I'm grateful for them. In January of 1988, they'd saved up enough money to purchase a 2-bedroom condo in San Gabriel. And in fall of 1991, I moved into my dorm room at UCLA as a freshman. And our journey into the American dream is complete. Within 8 years of arriving in America with just the clothes on our backs, my parents managed to nurture me to a seat at a premier institution of higher education. An additional benefit for making it to UCLA was I met my beautiful wife. As luck would have it, she is also the daughter of a former Naval Academy grad from South Vietnam. We both went to medical school in the Midwest. We both completed our residencies in Chicago. And now I am a practicing emergency medicine physician in Orange County, and my wife practices physical medicine and rehabilitation at Rady Children's Hospital. We're doing our best to raise our 2 wonderful sons. The 2 boys we left behind in Vietnam joined us 10 years later, but the scars of the being left behind still haunt my brother. My brothers are both married now. They both have 2 children of their own, and we surround my parents in Southern California with as much love and care as possible, which is what they deserve. Now, as I have a chance to live out my beautiful life here in America, as a grateful and proud Vietnamese American, I have never forgotten the struggles of my early years. I have also never forgotten the people who sacrificed so much so that I can have the opportunity to build this wonderful life. That is why, beyond the work that my wife and I have in our careers in healthcare, we've been trying to serve our communities to the best of our abilities. We began by serving our veterans. In 2013, we joined Honor Flight San Diego, whose mission it is to take our veterans from World War II, Korea War, and Vietnam from San Diego to Washington, D.C. for a tour of honor. To date, I've taken 11 trips with our wonderful veterans, and I am so grateful for every single trip. If you are a veteran of those conflicts and you have not registered with Honor Flight San Diego, please go to honorflightsandiego.org to register. You will not regret the trip that you will take. I also serve on the USS Midway Museum as a volunteer and now on the board of directors. And recently I began to conduct pop-up medical clinics to serve the homeless population of San Diego as well as Orange County. My life has been made possible by my parents, who brought me into life and have fought all obstacles, including hunger, war, imprisonment, and poverty, to give me the opportunity to build this life. But my gratitude also goes to all of you, especially the veterans who have fought in Vietnam. To you who served, your presence in Vietnam gave the dream of a free Vietnam a fighting chance. It gave many of us who are here now a chance at this life. It provided my mother a safe hospital and a safe town to give birth to me. It gave my father the support that he so needed when he was fighting a relentless enemy in those brutal years in the Mekong Delta. And your presence there likely saved his life. To you who lost loved ones in Vietnam, I am so sorry for your loss. But I hope that my words of gratitude will help heal you a little bit. To you who came back to a country that did not show you the love and respect that you so deserve, I want to say how sorry I am that that happened to you. And thank you. I hope that my generation and my son's generation will ensure that something like that never, ever happen again to our veterans. To those of you who came back from the war with scars that continue to ravage your bodies and mind until this day, I'm sorry for your injuries. Please let my colleagues at the VA and elsewhere work with you to help you heal. Thank you. To all the Marines at Camp Pendleton who took care of the refugees in 1975, thank you. You took care of my in-laws. My mother-in-law was pregnant with my wife at the time, and my 53-year-old sister-in-law still talks about the Marines who handed her fig Newtons at Camp Pendleton. To all the veterans of the USS Midway who saved more than 3,000 Vietnamese refugees, thank you. You saved some of my wife's relatives. And to all of you who served in Vietnam or here at home in their support, on behalf of all Vietnamese Americans, I thank you for your service and sacrifice. Vietnamese Americans are all contributing to the fabric of this great country. And I know we can never repay the debt that is owed to America and its men and women who served. However, it is my hope that my words of gratitude and my family's ongoing life of service, along with the contributions of all the people who look like me and who share my path, at the very least could help heal your wounds a little bit. As my son continues on his journey in his application to the U.S. Naval Academy, I am looking forward to continuing our family's legacy of service. In closing, I hope Americans never forget that our veterans have given so much to the preservation of this great nation. And behind you, under those headstones, some gave the ultimate sacrifice. For those of us who have been fortunate enough to be born in this country or to become one of its citizens, we can never take our country or our freedom for granted. Some say today's world has no heroes. Some say you just don't know where to look. As I'm looking out at all your veterans' hats and all your faces, I know that I'm looking at heroes. Under those headstones are heroes. So I thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts and my story, and thank you to all of you for your service and sacrifice. Happy Veterans Day.